Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a huge honor to win this category, and now we hope that we can really impress you and maybe even win the big prize. Just a quick word to Nickel & Partner. We are a specialized firm on healthcare architecture. So since 1979, we do nothing else than building healthcare facilities and life science buildings. You see here on the map, we do that relatively globally. We completed around 5 million square meters of hospital so far. And here are some examples. We do also hospital ships. So this is very unique, a set of portfolios and a set of projects. Today we will guide you to our office in Switzerland, in the beautiful Zurich. And today the topic will be Made in Switzerland, how we change healthcare architecture. So the Kantonsspital Baden is located really close to Zurich, between Zurich and the border to Germany, just above the beautiful lake of Zurich, which is this very long structure you see in the upper part of the map. So here on this image, you see the Kantonsspital Baden. On the right is the old building, which will be demolished soon, and on the left is the new building. And now the big question for you is, which one is bigger? Because a Swiss newspaper recently wrote, these architects, they are really bad. They designed a hospital which is much smaller than the old one, which is, if you look at the facts, completely wrong, because our building is 1/3 bigger, but because of the integration into the landscape, it looks relatively small. So it's a 76,000 square meter usable space project completed over a period of 8 years. We did everything from the first idea until the final product. Here you see again the image. So the main topic of that project was really to bring the greenery into the project and to use the height difference between the entrance area and the park level, which is on +1 in this project, and to bring all the nature which is surrounding that property into the building. Here, this is the future master plan where the old property is already demolished, and where you see this will be also the space where a future hospital or future extension can be built. I divided that presentation into 3 topics. First, our main priority, healing architecture. Then the second one, human-centered, because healthcare workers and staff members are so essential in our buildings. And the third one is sustainability. So first, we will have a quick look at the healing architecture. If we now look at the site in the early morning, you now see there in the background there's a protected forest just right behind the project. Then there's also a big highway, and the main topic of this project was to bring people very deep into the building through this central courtyard, because we have a hub and spoke system. So basically, we bring all the people to a center place and then distribute them to the outside, which is a complete new typology if you look at healthcare facilities. So this is the entrance area where you have this escalator. Along this area with the escalator, all the functions are very closely connected, so you can reach whatever area you need within the building between 2 to 5 minutes after you entered the building, which is extremely fast. You also see the complete integration of daylight into the building, so wherever you walk, you always have a view towards the outside here from the patient rooms. Obviously, food is a very important topic in this project and in every hospital. So we were also involved in developing new forms of kitchens and new forms of how we can serve patients food. So now if you look at the floor plan, you already see the central area, which is our core, and then you see the stations, which are all the functional units, which have their own waiting areas, but which are very closely connected. And because of this big courtyard in the entrance, you enter very deep into the building, and then the same is on the first floor, where you have the operating theaters, etc. And then on the upper floors, you have always 4 wards per floor, which is again centered through a core, which is then distributing patients, but also visitors towards the outside. Now, I already mentioned the short distances. The whole design is a very timeless design because out of experience we know that these functions, they will change dramatically over time. So everything is used with local materials. 92% of the materials used in the project were sourced regionally, and 70% were actually sourced within the canton, which is the state where the project was done. So this is the arrival area of when you go up to the wards. Again, there is a public functions all centered around this main courtyard, and then you go into each of the wards. So again, you have from every patient room, you have a unique view towards the outside, towards the greenery, but also towards the Alps. So now I will focus a bit on the patient. Now we saw the patient, now I will show you the staff journey. The staff journey also starts very early in the morning, but at the same time there are different functions which are relevant for staff. We have a lot of helicopters coming because it's very close to the University Hospital of Zurich. We have a huge emergency department which is completely digitalized. All the operating theaters have all sorts of light technology reflecting the light from the outside, but they also have a view towards the surrounding. There are latest robotics here, so all the operating theaters you see here are the latest technology and the most modern one in Europe. We have a lot of functions which are relevant for staff. All the logistics is done completely by robots, so you don't have to push any trolleys anymore. There you see the staff restaurant, which has again a very close relationship to the outside and their own area. This is where women give birth. Again, a very close relationship. Even the robot, because this is the most modern digital robot laboratory which there is on the planet. Even the robots have a beautiful view towards the outside. And we actually changed the word hospital to hospitality. So it's really a meaning that everyone is welcomed in this project. So sustainability obviously is in Switzerland a huge topic. And the most sustainable building is a building which lasts very long. So we have a column system of 8.4 meters, and in between there are non-load-bearing walls. And all of these non-load-bearing walls were prefabricated and can be changed according to future functions, because we don't know what the technology will need in 10 or 15 years. We also have a crawl space of 1.2 meters above every floor, which means we can do MEP installations at a later stage. The whole project was done completely using a digital twin, which is now also used for the maintenance of the project. Currently, there are 28 other institutions involved in that project. For example, the ETH in Zurich, so students can access more than 60,000 documents of that project and develop it further and do studies, for example, for the emergency care of the future, an ongoing project now at the ETH. Telemedicine and digitalization, so each room has the ability to be accessed remotely. And now, one very unique feature about this project is we can be completely off-grid. So how actually did we do that? We have 170 geothermal probes, and we have a wood-fired power plant. So we would use wood chips from the local forest in order to generate all the energy needs we need within the building. We actually overdid it, and at the moment we are producing more energy than we can use, and we contribute to the local grid and give back. We have more than 7,000 IoT sensors in that building, so we can track everything, and also the MEP systems are also adaptable depending on how many people we have where. All 11 courtyards are designed specifically to all the different regions in Switzerland, and they're all different. These wooden facades, they were sourced locally. I know all of the of the trees we had to cut down for that facade, and you have your own QR code within each room where you see which tree you are sitting in front. And this project was really developed for the city of Baden with the city of Baden. So we had a huge integration of the local population, and it would be a huge honor for the city of Baden, for us, to bring back this prize and to honor the hard work the people do daily, on a daily basis, all the millions of healthcare workers. And some of them have to work really in shitty environments, but there's a growing number of architects who take their task seriously, and we hope that we can contribute. Thank you very much.
Who wants to start?
Yeah, you mentioned about 11 courtyard has different design. Then how this like landscape design relate to the each interior space, like different zoning, or different the interior function? And can you a little bit explain about it?
So the upper, I'm not sure if I can go back. The upper courtyards, they are accessible. So the round ones, because each inpatient ward, they have their own outside space. Because a lot of patients, the average stay in this hospital is around 3.7 to 4 days. So a lot of people, they don't have time to go out to the garden because they are on a really tight schedule. So we decided to bring in the greenery. You see that here. So these courtyards here, they are all accessible, the round ones. So each ward has their own topic. And here we now started with urban farming. So some of the patients, they can grow their own vegetables, and actually the carrots they had, some of the patients, they grew themselves. That's not a joke. I tried the carrot, it was really good. Then the lower ones here, the square ones, they are always adjacent to waiting areas. So you come here into the building, and this is the central core. And then you walk along here if you're an outpatient, and then you have one waiting area, and the second waiting area, the third, and the fourth. So you see it directly from the courtyards where you have to go. And it's super easy because you go in, and then you just go to the relevant courtyard, and they have all a different design, and they have all their own greenery. So if you know the building a little bit, you know to which courtyard to have to go, because each courtyard has their own topic. So they represent 11 selected regions of Switzerland. Like these upper ones here, they have flowers. So they are from up higher areas. Switzerland has mountains above 4,000 meters. So these plants here were sourced in between 2,000 and 2,500 meters. These ones here, these hanging gardens, they have a little bit more a jungle feeling because they are growing up, which is not very typically for Switzerland. But again, we have areas along the Bodensee where we have this very dense greenery. So all of these different topics were represented by the landscape architect in this area, and it actually works because people, they tell us in feedback, hey, I saw that garden today because there my cardiologist has their examination room.
Yes, one is sort of hallowed by the presentation. It's all incredibly high level of expertise, and everything seems to have been ironed out and programmed, and and so one is immediately suspicious, if you're somebody like me, to say, okay, that's very nice, and yes, presumably the robot or the computer or a person has found absolutely every way of everybody in every bed being able to see a piece of greenery. Then one asks the question, is it the same greenery? And anyhow, and it's still within, of course, the presumably necessary condition of quite low ceilings, because there's a lot of gear, I guess, in the ceiling or whatever. And then I start to think, yes, so that the dimension of release architecturally is a horizontal one. And one is yearning for something that suddenly breaks the system. You have your indentations, which look different shapes, representing these cantons or whatever. And maybe, the lupins will grow high enough for the person lying in the bed to just about see them, or not. But the architecture surrounding the Lupins is the same architecture. And then my final area of question is, what does it do to the place around? I mean, you know, we have, when you see a hospital, you either remember when you were last in hospital, I hope you don't have to go into it, or it's either monumental or sort of finger wagging or kind of trying not to be grim, whatever the architecture is. And you have Switzerland, of course, which has a, you know, certain kind of topography and so on. So I'm wondering, when one's living in somewhere nearby and you see this big building with the regular windows, and maybe inside the interesting or marvelous things happening, what does it say other than it says hospital on the top of it, so you know what it is, because it's big sort of lettering. And I sort of feel I have that yes but instinct. You know, everything is so, I mean, you guys are really experts. I mean, and I can speak with admiration. I was operated on by robots a long time ago. And I have a respect for this situation. But whether the building needs to be operated on by robots, so to speak, I wonder. There's something just a bit too all right about it. That's a terrible thing to say, but one has a sort of feeling, yes, but. Could you have done more?
So to the heights, so all usable rooms, also the patient rooms actually have 3.5 meter. The normal ones, examination rooms, and every staff room has 3 meters. The corridors have 2.8 meters, and in the welcome area, when you come up, it's 2.75 meters. What we did in the waiting areas, obviously it's a huge building, we couldn't show, we have trillions of pictures of that project. So all of the waiting areas, especially in the lower part, they have higher ceilings. So sometimes we go up there to 4 meters, and the idea was really to have this main plaza where you come in, which is this nearly 20-meter high main space, where you also have the escalators, where you have the skylights on the roof. I can quickly go back to the right there. There it was. So there, that is nearly 20 meters. And what we also did, in order to always have movement in the building, we have the ceiling structure. You see that? And there are stripes in there. And we have them because of acoustic reasons, because for hygiene reasons, we couldn't do any acoustic measurements on the walls, because the hygiene in that part of Switzerland said, no, that is absolutely not possible. And none of that ceiling panels is the same. So there are more than 1.2 million different patterns in that project. So you always have a movement while you move through the building. Could we have done more? Yes, we can always do more in that project, and obviously some of the ideas, especially to use wood also in the lower parts, that was not possible because the client refused it. But what my main concern about this project is, it took us 8 years. So we also wrote the room program, everything, from the room program to the finished building. And I think that is way too long. And what we are doing now, because a lot of these elements were done prefab. So what we are now doing, we are actually designing 3D elements, so modular elements, which we can already bring down. Because we actually had to redesign the project 3 times because the technology was moving so fast that we couldn't even catch up as architects.
Mm-hmm. I know Lorinda has a quick question. We need to move on.
No, I was just going to say, I think in the scheme of things, though, for this program and building type, it's a really good solution.
I think, it's really extraordinary that the scale and scope of this, as you said, and the fact that you are working on so many projects. And I think it just raises a more general question beyond your project. It ties in a little bit to what Peter Cook was saying. And you mentioned that the time that people are spending in this kind of hospital is now 3.5, 3.7, 4 days maximum, things like that. And You know, the history of these kinds of hospitals, the best ones, were always those that had something to do with nature, something to do with an outside. And now, you know, you're moving, the world is moving so much towards digitization. It's so much about the idea of artifice and the protection from that nature in a way for so many reasons. It does raise the question of how will it be possible to introduce, you know, your ideas around hospitality in an environment which is so technologically artificial in some way. And that's really a kind of big question, which I suppose inevitably, through the emphasis on expertise, then attaches itself to the architecture, to the kind of expertise that 2.8 meter height, 3 meter high, 3.2 meter high. I think these are the kinds of things that you, because you're doing so many things related to this, have the option of, in a way, entering that space also maybe differently, precisely because you're doing so many of them, in terms of the connection to outdoors, to nature, questions of garden, landscape, you know, things like that. But it's really extraordinary demonstration, and thank you very much.
May I give one comment? What I didn't mention, behind it, there's this protected forest. We actually put a hiking trail in there, which is accessible for wheelchairs. And we actually had to find a new material, flooring material, how to build it, because there were so many restrictions that we were not able to seal the material. So greenery and working with landscape architects, we actually had 3 landscape architects for that project, was a huge topic, because I absolutely agree with you. These hospitals are nowadays, most people come for same-day surgery. They come in the morning, they leave. They don't see anything. They only care about the quality of the coffee. But that was really the idea, to bring all the nature in, so that if people are there, stressed there, they're on a schedule, they have to go to that doctor, they have to go to the examination room, etc., that they always have some minutes to have a view towards the outside and to really refocus and to rejoin their inner soul. Because nowadays you are not going for a hospital without a schedule.
Thank you. I can see Paul coming to the stage.
Thank you.
you.